there, and welcome to Star Trek Rewind, your daily visit... Wait, daily, damn it. Hello, and welcome to Star Trek Rewind, your weekly visit to the future in the past, and today we'll be covering Star Trek The Next Generation, Episode 1 and 2, Encounter at Farpoint.
Oh man, this was a good episode.
Yeah, that's probably why they decided to continue making the show.
Hopefully, I would assume so. Actually, I believe they had at least 3 seasons signed on, so...
Seriously? I didn't know that. Oh, we're learning things already, people.
What do you know? This was the introductory episode because it was the pilot episode. A lot of things came in. There was all the new tech. Well, there was the...
New characters.
How they didn't explain, A, why there's a Klingon on the ship, or B, what Data is in the first episode.
No, Riker.
Yeah, but that was in the second episode.
Oh yeah, technically yes. But they're both one pilot episode for...
I guess. But they still decided to spend, like, the first... If you were watching it without knowing who any of the characters are, you have no idea why Data is talking so weirdly or why he looks strange.
Also, one thing I'd like to point out about the very first shot of the thing that's not in space, when Picard's walking through engineering, right?
Yes.
That elevator lift thing that someone was using, why did that never come back? Or almost never.
There wasn't a few more episodes of the first season. I can't remember, though. That's why we are rewatching this. It was so slow, though.
But it was awesome.
It was pretty awesome, but there was also a ladder right beside it. That was probably a lot faster.
Probably.
True. Still, if I worked in a place that had an elevator like that. Anyway, the main important things about this episode. First, probably Q.
Oh man,
yeah.
I guess.
Q's pretty important.
John DeLance, the actor.
He's probably also one of the most inconsistent characters in the show.
Quite a hypocritical character, if you ask me as well.
Like, have you noticed, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that this is the only episode where he does that weird field thing, and then it transforms into a ball and follows them.
Yes, I believe that is the case.
I think the one where he tries to get Picard or Riker to join the Q might have the similar thing at one point. But other than that, yeah, he abandons that thing.
Yeah, spoiler alert there.
Yeah.
Gosh.
He also seems to get incredibly more powerful over the course of the series, and his personality changes quite a bit too.
Yeah.
That it does. He evolves like the show.
You also have to wonder, right? So basically Q's entire purpose in this episode is that he's trying to judge humanity, right? However, he doesn't seem to actually do this for any other race. Only humanity. Why doesn't he just go up to, like, a Borg city and just tell the collective, I'm now judging you? Or the Klingons, or something else. Because you have, like, the Romulans, or the Klingons, or the Ferengi, or anything.
Yeah, the Ferengi aren't exactly...
If the Continuum's told him once, it's told him 1,000 times, don't provoke the Borg!
Oh, man.
That was a reference to Star Trek Voyager, so I'm not surprised if you missed that.
Yeah.
The eyebrows in that scene, oh man.
It's interesting how his character changes between this episode that he's in and future ones, though. He seems so much more serious in this one, whereas in all the others he's trying to make jokes and Picard's getting annoyed at the jokes.
Pretty much. Speaking of Picard, he does get... I don't know, he comes up as not a very likable captain at the beginning. Like, he doesn't really pay attention to Riker when Riker beams aboard for the first time. He hates kids, and I feel like that's a huge percentage of the audience.
Then again, he's dealing with Wesley Crusher.
Okay, yeah, good point.
But yeah, he hated kids even before he met Wesley, so...
Yeah, sorry, Will Wheaton, by the way.
Yeah, it's not your fault, it's just your character was terrible.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's also Deanna Troi. You're talking about characters that aren't very good.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
She's probably my second least favourite character in the entire of Star Trek The Next Generation, other than
What's your first least favourite?
Luxwana Troy.
Don't bring her up, please.
Who I believe was actually Gene Roddenberry's wife, was the actor?
Really?
I cannot quote you on that, but I'll take your word for it.
And she also voices the computer of the Enterprise.
Cool.
Yes.
Factual information here, folks. You should replace the schools with us.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this is really all you need to know, isn't it? Just Star Trek information.
Yes, of course.
It's the future. We're learning about the future.
One other thing I'd like to talk about from the first of the 2 episodes is the saucer section separation maneuver.
Yeah. Like, wait, here's a... Well, you say what you wanted to say first.
Oh, alright. I find, I really enjoyed how they expanded upon starships in the Next Generation. Like, there's a bunch of new maneuvers, sort of like you said, the saucer separation, the Picard maneuver where you travel at warp speed in order to confuse the enemy, among others.
Yes, even if the Picard maneuver can be circumvented with subspace sensors, I think. But one thing about the saucer separation is actually the original Star Trek, the Enterprise, not even the first one, NCC 1701, was also capable of separating the saucer section. And Gene Roddenberry wanted in Star Trek The Motion Picture, or in Episode 2, The Wrath of Khan, instead of the Enterprise being destroyed, no, Episode 3, The Search for Spock, instead of the Enterprise being destroyed, he wanted only the saucer section to be destroyed, because he believed that then the movie could end with a new saucer section attaching to the original body section, and that would be a more fitting end to the movie. But the producers disagreed.
Well, what I wanted to bring up about the saucer section separation is that Data was constantly saying how dangerous it is to do it at this level of warp, and like, oh yes, you need to be absolutely precise. But, I mean, so long as they're not accelerating, it should be fine. Because in the closed system, they're both moving at the same relative speed. So, really, relative to one another, they're not moving. So, saucer separation should be easy.
Well,
right? As long as they don't accelerate or decelerate.
You'd think that, but then you've got to remember they're travelling at warp speed, so they're travelling faster than the speed of light under a propulsion system that has rules that's completely different, but only one of them is one of the 2 sections is capable of generating a warp field. Which
happens to be the lower part.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter, because it's not like the saucer section is going to slow down. It's space. There's no... it has inertia. It's not going to just suddenly stop.
Which is true. Although, this is Star Trek, I don't really think physics applies.
Yeah, that's probably not the best thing to deconstruct.
Probably. So, should we just make a standing rule in this to ignore science?
Yes.
I think bring it up whenever it's interesting or would be cool to talk about, but don't criticize the episodes because they're not 100% scientifically accurate.
Oh, I do have something to say about the expanding upon your saucer separation. Didn't they use it to fight the what is it called? That planet killer thing, the original Enterprise, NC 1701.
I don't think the original Enterprise ever used the saucer separation. They considered using it a few times, I think, and talked about ejecting the nacelles, but...
Was it against that, or was it against a Klingon? I can't remember. It was one of the two. Well, maybe it happened in the animated series.
Right.
I have a very vague memory of that happening. But that was one of the main points of the Galaxy-class starship's design, was its ability to operate as independent ships at a tactical moment.
Also seems kind of weird they separated their phasers between the 2 halves as well.
I'm not sure why they both don't have photon torpedoes and phasers.
Yeah.
Well, whenever they fire phasers when they're together, they always fire it from the saucer section, right? But I suppose the phaser banks could be... Oh, sorry?
No, I was gonna... Oh, well, I was gonna say that they usually fire their proton torpedoes from the bottom half, right? Although I remember that there were probably... I think that there were some photon torpedo areas over here as well.
Also, one thing I'd like to... And I need another one of these guys in here. There we go. One thing that's is probably as relevant to bring up now as ever, because it is never included in the main series, is this thing. Right? Do you know what that thing is?
Isn't that the captain's yacht?
The captain's yacht, which is a fully capable spaceship of itself, right? It's much larger than a shuttlecraft, has all sorts of instruments, is capable of high warp, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never gets used for anything.
Why?
Ever. I guess budget constraints, which is the same reason why they only ever use the saucer separation 4 times throughout the life of the Enterprise D.
Well, it wasn't actually computer-generated imagery. It was actually a model against a black screen, which I think they superimposed lights for stars on.
Are you sure? I thought the saucer separation was...
No, the saucer separation was computer animated, I believe, but most of the shots were of a model.
Yeah, but couldn't they just reuse the same resources?
That probably wouldn't have looked very good if people noticed that they were using the same footage every time they decided to separate the saucer section.
Which doesn't happen that often, but yeah.
I was thinking that you could probably just put it on the backdrop of black sky and stars, and people probably wouldn't know the difference.
Probably, yes. But... there we go. So yeah, more things specifically about the episode. So I guess Farpoint is the next thing worth talking about.
Does anyone think it looks like a base from Freelancer?
Kind of, actually.
Except that it's on the ground.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Us being the only 3 people of the entire world who have actually played Freelancer.
Yes.
Yeah. If you haven't, then you probably should play it. You can probably get it for about 3 cents.
It's probably worth that much now, yeah.
Good luck finding a computer that can run it.
Yeah, because it's that high graphics quality.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's better, in fact, than Crysis 3 and The Witcher 2.
It is better than The Witcher 3, which is yet to come out yet, and has very good graphics from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just a quick thing. While we were talking about what this, Farpoint looks like, am I the only person that thinks that this looks almost exactly like the Imperial City from Oblivion?
Actually, yes. Except it does have these little things here. If I just wipe them out, it'll look more like the Imperial City.
It's a bit Orthanc-like as well, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I like a lot of things. Perhaps that's symbolism, Orthanc?
Except it's completely white instead of completely black.
Yeah, there is that.
Yes, and... yes, I think Orthanc is definitely a reference to Farpoint Station.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Tolkien had already predicted what Farpoint Station would look like when he was writing the books, and he was like, you know what? I'm going to make Orthanc look exactly like that.
Precisely.
And although, then again, Orthanc was just the tower, so it would really just be Isengard as a whole.
That's... yeah, it looks like more like Isengard than Orthanc, I'll give it that.
Well, yeah, it does have the... it's by mountains right here and here. It's in between mountains. It's surrounded by the greenery. It does look an awful lot, a lot like it. Yeah, mountains. What the heck is this, anyways?
Probably a forest or something.
Okay.
An interesting thing to note is that when they're down on the planet, right, and Beverly Crusher and Riker are in that place buying things, right? Mm-hmm. They're in some sort of courtyard that's exposed to the open air. So this thing must be massive, because I can't see any courtyard on this image.
Well, perhaps it's in one of these.
It could be in one of like. Oh wait,
It's bigger now.
these things.
I find it interesting how everyone in the colony seems to have such low tech. Is the best way of me explaining it. Despite it being such, they claim it to be such an advanced spaceport or colony.
What was also kind of weird was that when they showed the spaceship bombing the colony, right? Everything seemed really brown. Like all the buildings seemed really brown. But there doesn't seem to be any kind of brown buildings in this picture.
I believe.
Well, the settlement was outside the station, right?
Yes, they did mention that. They said they're not bombing the station, they are bombing the houses of those who made the station.
So where are those?
Probably not in that picture. Or maybe it's these things.
That's a possibility. Yeah, that might be it.
But in all honesty, though, I think this is really meant to be, in design-wise, to look like a seal. Because it is actually a seal.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here's the settlement.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's definitely outside the city. So it manages to introduce all of the main characters, but give, as they say, really lacking on detail on Worf.
Yeah, Worf doesn't really get a lot of screen time in this episode.
And they also, like, hinted all of these, like his massive backstory for Tricia, but then she just, spoilers, isn't in the rest of the series.
Wait, who's Tricia?
Oh,
the security person.
Natasha.
Yeah, that was close enough.
Yeah.
That was almost her name.
Though I thought she was with Data. Right?
Yes, she was briefly.
Okay, brilliant.
But I think that happened later.
Right.
she dies in the second season, I believe.
Interesting thing about Diana Troy.
Spoilers.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a spoiler-free series, folks.
No. Though you might not be able to get a lot of sense out of it until you watch the episode, which doesn't really defeat the point in the first place. But, and this is spoilers for the rest of the series again, since when did Diana Troy have the ability to communicate telepathically?
With only Riker.
Yeah, she's mentioned something, do you remember what I taught you, along those lines?
Yeah.
So perhaps there's some sort of advanced technique that he has to do.
To understand her. And
Still, there's a lot of situations in which that would have been really helpful. Just
although, then again, he never says yes or no to that. She says, like, nice to meet you, and he's like, yes. And he never says that he could actually understand her, so for all that she knows, he could just, like, have no idea what she's saying. She has stopped trying to think at him.
Oh, man.
So the entire rest of the series, she could be trying to communicate with him telepathically, and he's got no idea what's going on.
No, I think it's more so that she just gave up because she thought that he couldn't hear her.
Right.
So she just wasn't trying to communicate with him after that first time when he didn't respond.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Speaking of Riker, he looks very...
Not bearded.
He looks incredibly odd without his beard.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a little bit of getting used to.
Although according to Q, he was a lot more fun without his beard.
That is what Q... yeah.
Also, by the way, something that I'd never really registered before. McCoy's cameo.
When was that?
The
Was
Admiral
he
who Data was showing around.
Oh, that was McCoy.
Oh, yeah. Right.
I didn't make that connection.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was 137 years old.
Yeah.
I mean...
That's pretty old. Well, I mean, I guess he's a doctor, so lots of preventative medicine.
This is the future, so they... And in a future
They
episode,
have, like-
Beverly Crushley says, I can't believe that people 400 years ago died of the common flu. That's just beyond our comprehension. It's like how we would say, we can't believe people died from getting an amputation, right? Now we have like anesthetics and what are they called? Cleansing products. I can't think of the word right now.
Distilled water.
Distilled water, alcohol. There's a word for it. I can't think of it right now. Like they're so far ahead medically that people are able to live to the actual end of their lifespan rather than getting disease-ridden.
An interesting turn of phrase I thought from earlier on again. Sorry, I missed this when we were talking about the early parts. Picard mentions that the ship doesn't have a first officer yet, but he has been informed that a very capable young officer, William Riker, is waiting for him on Starpoint. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The turn of phrase implies that someone's gone and picked Riker out for him.
Apparently.
Whereas, if you go watch, and I believe it might even be, it's either Best of Both Worlds or Chain of Command, right? Much later on, he says that he handpicked Riker's assignment because of an incident in which Riker disobeyed the orders of his commanding officer and didn't allow him to go on an away mission.
Yeah, which he mentions it, but he says it like accusingly. It's like, so are you to say that you just don't respect your captain?
I think he was testing him, because
Possibly.
if Riker had broken down, then obviously he wouldn't have been a good commanding officer.
Okay.
Because if it took that little to break Riker, then, how can he handle the pressure of meeting a extremely hostile alien species?
Like they do on a daily basis.
That's kind of the entire focus of the show.
Another interesting thing I thought was all of the turns of phrase that they hadn't quite worked out yet. If you'll notice, Picard doesn't say Captain's Log Supplemental, he says Captain's Log Supplementary, which...
Oh, and he also says star time at one point. I haven't really heard them ever use that term before.
No, and if you'll notice when Q first appears, Red Alert turns on without anyone prompting it. And
also for some reason Q decides that for some reason when he's dressed up in the costumes of previous Earthlings, he then needs to speak exactly like them. Even though he doesn't do that at any other point.
Yeah, that's true.
Speaking of Q and his costumes, what do you think of that in the future soldier? Well, I guess it's not in the future for them, but the future for us. Soldiers was interesting.
Controlled by drugs?
They use drugs so they wouldn't feel pain, I believe.
One thing I have to say, right? In the courtroom scene, that was the biggest waste of ammunition I have ever seen. Like, that guard just shot his gun in every single time that anybody was talking for no reason. Like, they could have just gotten a gavel or some kind of loud noise. They didn't need to have the guy just randomly shoot things.
Oh, well, in the thing's defense, Q can generate infinite ammunition. It's one of his powers is to make things from just, I guess, pure energy to obey the laws of thermodynamics.
But
and
like,
he wanted to make a point that humans were savages, so he was just shooting off a gun instead of using a gavel, as you were suggesting.
But one thing, right, as one points out, because I think it's funny, the first person that got injured on the show was wearing a red shirt.
That's pretty funny. Was that the guy who was frozen?
Yeah, the guy who got frozen.
I wonder if that was an intentional call-out, or if it just happened that way.
Yeah, I mean...
We ask DC Fortana and Gene Roddenberry.
Gene Roddenberry's dead.
Yeah,
we have a speak with dead ritual, it'll be fine.
Just inject him with some of Khan's blood, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to go into that movie right now, please.
Okay, yes, that's...
I won't go into it. Anyway, staying back to the encounter at Farpoint.
So then there's the matter of the actual plot of the episode.
Yeah.
The fact that the space station is, in fact, a giant alien creature that's pretending to be a space station, or a starbase.
Pretty well, also. Kind of surprising.
Yes. I think it's interesting how they can encounter, flying in space alien creatures in the first episode of the series, and then later when they encounter another one, I believe it was called Tin Man in an episode, they are so utterly shocked that a creature can exist just floating in space pretending to be a spaceship.
Well, they don't exactly see it every day.
No.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe. I'm not entirely sure what to say about that.
And I assume it was probably quite a long time after this whole encounter at Farpoint.
Indeed.
I guess so. Also, how does Data know that the courtroom trial is not an illusion or a dream? No, or...
Data.
Was it Data or Deanna Troy?
It was Deanna who said that. She said this isn't an illusion or a dream.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with... what alien is she? I can't remember.
She's a beta form.
Betazoid.
Betazoid, there we go.
Close enough, yeah. like Tasha, beta form, close enough, I mean...
But it was Tasha.
No, it was... No, I said something else before.
Yeah.
But...
You said Data. It was Deanna Troy.
No.
No, I mean like way before when I was talking about Yar.
Oh, Yar. Oh. Yeah, Deanna said that. I think because... I think she just kind of pulls powers out of nowhere that mildly have to do with human consciousness.
Yeah, they seem to be kind of arbitrary.
Yeah. It is a science fiction TV show, so there isn't really a need for a set guidelines.
I think another interesting thing to note was the reference to the Ferengi. So the leader of the Farpoint station threatened to offer the station to the Ferengi instead of to the Federation. So the Ferengi was a race that hadn't been introduced yet, and they're clearly trying to build them up to be major characters in the series if they're going out of their way to mention them. And indeed, the original purpose of the Ferengi was that they would be the big bad guys of TNG, which later really got replaced by the Borg instead.
Yeah. They said that they made them appear as savages, from what I remember. It's like and then I'm sure you'll be tasty, just like all of their other associates. He said something along those lines to Zorn. Zorn's just an odd name. Was Zorn a human, or was he an alien, by the way?
Zorn,
he was the leader of the Farpoint station.
I think he was a race indigenous to... Groppler Zorn was a member of the Bandy species.
There we go. I did find it, on a side note, I found it interesting how Picard mentioned Shakespeare, which I'm wondering if that's kind of trying to get people to look more into
his background.
Yeah, his background as a Shakespearean actor. He was, or is rather, quite prominent in the Shakespearean actor world or underworld. He played a lot of people. I think he played Macbeth. He played probably Hamlet. I really can't.
He probably played a whole yeah.
But that's where he first started acting, though, was Shakespeare. Or, well, we first got really involved in acting.
Yeah.
Good old Patrick Stewart. On another side note, there's do you know Deadpool?
Vaguely.
Okay, well, Deadpool, there was a time where guys asked him about Star Trek, and and he said, "Oh, I have all the DVDs, the good original series, not the bad one with the guy who looks like Professor X," which I thought was interesting because, well, it's just another instance of Deadpool breaking the fourth wall.
When was that written?
Oh, a few years ago, I think.
That's cool.
Okay, guys, so I'm really, really sorry, but I have something I need to do right now. So...
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Right, great to talk to you. See you next week, if not sooner.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Alright, so Ninja left us, and I suppose now is as good of a time as any to end this as well.
Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot left to say about this episode. I mean, it was the preliminary introduction pilot episode, so I have no doubt that future ones will have more interesting topics to talk about than the introduction of characters.
Yes.
But until then, we'll be leaving you. This has been Star Trek Review, Star Trek Rewind, covering Star Trek Series 1, Episode 1 and 2, Encounter at Farpoint.
Next episode is Episode 3, The Naked Now. Oh, man.
Oh god, that's the drunk one, isn't it?
Oh, man. That's gonna be awkward. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll be seeing you next week. Enjoy your Star Trek.
Oh yes, and for next week, make sure you watch that episode. Otherwise it's a bit pointless.
Yes. Indeed.
See you all next time.